So I feel like we're standing on the precipice of something utterly phenomenal. A change in our world that is not just simply for change. In fact, the solar eclipse that's happening on the 29th of March here in Aries is, to me, reflecting the need to absolutely embrace change without compromise. The reason why I say that is because this energy that's coming through in this solar eclipse is not an energy that just says, oh, there's possibility for change. It's coming out of the recognition and the emergence that there is disruption in our world. That the paths and the patterns of relating to ourselves and the values that we've held in the past are becoming a unfamiliar territory, a vanishing remembrance of something that no longer resonates with us on a deep emotional and psychological level. And out of this emotional raw intensity that is at the bottom of the solar eclipse will be the instinct to need to find new ways to respond to life and the circumstances that we're heading into. Now, for the most part, this solar eclipse is actually pushing us into stepping in to not just a small identity structure that is fresh and new, but one that is equivalent to massive seismic shifts, in which we begin to embrace a new version, a new identity that feels raw and real and authentic, that's true to yourself, that aligns with your values, that meets the ideals that you want to live by. It doesn't matter what's happening on the global world. That's something that we can't control. But for each of us on an individual level, this solar eclipse has the potential to help you break out of unfamiliar patterns or any patterns of emotional attachments that no longer serve your purpose. This is not just about a simple letting go and a relieving of things. It's about consciously recognizing that we carry certain internalized conditioning patterns that are simply not part of the future. We've reached the end of the line for the scripts that we run, the stories we tell ourselves, the unresolved emotional patterns that keep us locked into patterns of disempowerment. This is the energy that wants to say, are we going to show up? Are we going to confront these things? And we're going to emerge into a stronger, more empowered version of yourself. What are you chasing? What do you want in your life? What are the things that are calling for your attention that make you happy? That make you feel like you're resonating at the truest core of your being? The solar eclipse points towards the embodiment of this process. Now, part of the solar eclipse is not just about jumping into something completely new. We've got Mercury retrograde and Venus retrograde still. So there is a slowing down and reflection and realignment process that is still taking place. But the next day that this solar eclipse happens, so on the 30th, we've got a planetary alignment of Neptune entering Aries. And that is significant. That is a powerful transit on a generational level that is going to shift ourselves and our collective into a completely new direction. This solar eclipse is preparing you for what that reality will be. So I want to break down in this video exactly what I see in this solar eclipse, show you my thinking process, and be able to eventually give you an empowering perspective so you can walk away and start to see what needs to be embodied as you move forward throughout this eclipse energy. So firstly, let me just quickly highlight why eclipses are more powerful than just new and full moons. Because in a sense, that's what they are. They're new and full moons. A solar eclipse happens when we have a new moon, and it aligns with what is called the lunar nodes. On the screen right now, you'll see an image of where the lunar node is, that's sitting in Pisces, and the solar eclipse that's happening in Aries there with the moon. Now, they're not exactly in the same sign, which sometimes they aren't, but it really means that the new moon is aligning with the nodes, right? The north node in this case. And it makes it very important because it emphasizes the evolutionary trajectory or the significance of what we are as a collective moving towards in our awareness. So it has a very strong dramatic effect on the way that we move in our lives, how the energy flows through within our lives. So this solar eclipse that's happening in Aries, even though the North Node's in Pisces, brings us a dynamic tension between the culmination of something ending, North Node and Pisces, and the absolute emergence of a new direction, Aries. But as I said in the introduction, I talked about how This is one where, even though the emerging pattern is present, we might feel unclear or uncertain about how to act going forward. And that's because the North Nodes in Pisces were still working through, at this point in time at least, some patterns and some emotional and psychological internalized conditioning patterns that need to be released in order for us to step into the new energy. So it's signaling a new direction for us. So before I jump into the planetary alignments, I just want to talk to some of you that have been thinking about the lunar chart immersion. We are going to be closing the registration for it shortly. And I want to take a moment just to quickly go through the process itself for some of you that might be still interested, but are a little bit unsure about what it is. Okay. So the Learn Your Chart process or program is essentially designed to help you understand your astrology charts in the most deepest way. So I've put it together to help you understand your blueprint. When you understand the blueprint, you unlock essentially what is your true potential. And that's everything that this channel is trying to inspire people to follow. And of course, astrology is a tool that can be used for that. So part of this process is being able to understand yourself. So that's a principle that's embedded in this program. And it's an immersion that helps you understand your strengths, your challenges. It even reveals certain things about you that you probably have known on an intuitive level, but not had maybe that confirmation externally that oftentimes we'll find with astrologers, right? This is a great tool that's designed to help you navigate your life. So I'm sure you've noticed when you've looked at your astrology chart, you've tried to understand why things are the way that they are, how do they work. Well, this speaks to that. It helps get better clarity on why the planetary systems are the way in your chart and what are they representing. What are they trying to say to you? I'm a very firm believer that the chart and the soul is speaking to us through our life story. And of course, shaping your future, right? Being able to understand your charts, connect with it, see the blueprint, and eventually be able to know what that purpose is about and living it and fulfilling it. That's why we come to astrologers. That's why we use astrology, is to help us understand what our future is about as well. So this is very much about answering these questions. And this is something that I discovered through the many years of working with this, is that so many people are searching for certain things in one-to-one readings that I've had that I was like, well, what about a way where all of this can be answered and you have it accessible to you all the time? Something else that's also a big part of this process is an actual one-to-one call that you have with me at the end of the program and you complete it. So I'll actually help you integrate all of the insights and understandings that you've discovered throughout the whole entire process. So it's an opportunity to really work with me on a one-to-one basis that way. So it is going to be closing soon. We've got a short period of time that we're going to have it open. Down in the description below is a link to the Learn Your Chart immersion. So you can click on that, and there's an entire page that's dedicated to showing you exactly what's involved in the process. Okay? Okay, so I'm going to begin by looking at the Aries energy for us. It's important to know what the Aries energy is, because you can start to then emotionally connect to and embody the pattern that this archetype represents. So Aries energy is about a bold beginning. It's about a bold start. It's about fierce courage. It's about claiming your truth and taking up space. So I want you to imagine over the next couple of days where in your life these patterns, this energy can become embodied for you. Where can you start to claim your truth? Where can you start to take up space? Where can you start to become fierce and courageous and cross the threshold of some of the anxiety or uncertainty that keeps you in the feelings of uncertainty or trepidation or the fear of the unknown? Aries wants you to step into that space and begin embodying a new storyline for yourself. That's the energy that you want to bring into the solar eclipse for yourself. So if we take a look at the first planetary alignment in the solar eclipse, we've got Mercury still in Aries. It's retrograde. And so we're still dealing with some mental fog that clouds our clarity. We need to listen more and speak less in many cases, and probably watch for a lot of misinformation. You see, the thing with Mercury retrograde is this. Whenever we go through Mercury retrograde, it's about reviewing the last pattern of Mercury direct that we had. So when our mind was gathering a lot of information during that time, we were gathering new information and setting our intentions straight. This Mercury retrograde is helping us think about this Mars retrograde we just had. That's where our mind is at. So we're processing that Mars retrograde as well, even though it's direct. So this Mercury retrograde is going to go back into Pisces, and it's going to basically show us where we need to still address any underlying thinking patterns, subconscious fears, uncertainties, or mental blocks that we carry that inhibit us or prevent us from being able to step into a more empowered version of yourself. The next planetary alignment that we can take a look at, of course, is Venus conjunct the North Node in Pisces. Now, this is not just Venus conjunct the North Node in Pisces. It's Venus retrograde in Pisces. We've also got Saturn here. We've got Neptune too. So this is a powerful alignment because it actually trines Mars. And I've actually got a screen over here of exactly the chart that I'm looking at right now, right? So on the screen, you'll see that we've got Venus sitting there at 20-something degrees, 28 degrees of Pisces. Neptune, the North Node's at 27, and Neptune's at 29, right? You can see that on the chart over there. And it's trining Mars. So this Venus retrograde energy that's conjuncting the North Node and conjuncting Pisces has to do with karmic shifts around our self-worth, around our integration of acceptance of our own value and love towards ourselves, and the eventual reconnection with a set of values that aligns with our personal truth and personal will. That's the trine to Mars in Cancer. And you'll feel that on an emotional level that you're ready to take space in a new area. Venus conjunct the North Node also says, hey, there's old wants that are fading away. You need to release any pre-existing relationship patterns that you have towards yourself that are no longer part of the future. And this again will tie in with what I said on the first line, which was there are certain internal shifts that you're making towards yourself that you're realizing this is not working for me, this is not true for me, and are ready to embrace something new. So the new values are rising. Also, you really want to be able to start feeling and trusting what is deeply true to you. You see, this energy at the moment is wanting you to be as authentic and as honest with yourself as possible. The more transparency between your internal state and the external world, the more alignment you have, the stronger it is that you can make meaning out of the things that matter to you. This energy is wanting you to take up space in that new area. Again, all of the planets in Pisces will say, oh, we've still got a few things that we need to work out, but nevertheless, it's present. And that's exciting. So the next alignment that I think we should take a look at, of course, is the Mars squaring the Chiron. Now, this one's a big one. I'm not going to lie, because for the most part, we're not emotionally and psychologically equipped to be able to just jump into the areas of our lives that feel sensitive, overwhelming, painful, and scary. But the interesting thing about this Chiron square is that Chiron's location in Aries for a long period of time is saying, hey, part of this era that we're living in right now is a recognition that we need to awaken our agency, which is the ability to realize that you have power, you have sovereignty, you have the ability to take responsibility for your life and make the changes that you want. And at the same time, it is a recognition that the world and the people that inhabit this place have been also, just as you, deeply impacted and infected by emotional distortion, suppression, things that are bad, things that have hurt us, wars, conflicts, imbalances, all of these things that come along with the other side of our human nature that keeps recreating old emotional cycles of pain and suffering that we keep reacting from that leads us into deeper turmoil. So there's a paradox here with this Mars square Chiron, where on one side we can see the external world wrestling with so much of the disconnect from our naturalness, our ability to understand things, to ability to understand life as something that's sacred rather than something that we want to destroy or conquer. So taking up space in areas because we need to dominate is something that Chiron is trying to teach us. And of course, the square to Mars reminds us of that sensitivity of how we have lost our agency because of the overdominance. So we might feel a lack of trusting in being able to take up space within your life because you're afraid you might be the tyrant. This is about working through those underlying emotional patterns and releasing yourself from that and starting to work consciously on the energy that is present and pure and sacred within yourself. It's not an easy transit, and it's not going to be something that just changes overnight, but it's a constant psychological and emotional evolution that each of us needs to go through in order to be freed, liberated from the clutches that the last century and longer hold on our psychological and emotional posture, and especially around awakening agency, the capacity to follow your own individual story, purpose, and to live that, and to recognize that you have that destiny to live and awaken. So, this is about resisting reactions, which will come through, but it's about recognizing what needs to be healed around that agency, around taking up that space. And of course, the wounds of courage that are going to surface, right? Again, taking up the space and feeling like, can I do this? And so on. The next planetary alignment that I think I've already touched on before, and I talked about this earlier, which was Mars trining Neptune, Venus, and Saturn in the Pisces. Okay. Now, to me, the first thing that this aspect symbolizes, I'm going to go back to the chart over here just for all of us to kind of get into, is that we've just recently had Mars retrograde. Okay. So we know that Mars retrograde had a lot to do with us uncovering the emotional residue that we carry that is that we needed to release in order for us to prepare ourselves for what 2025 was going to bring, which is a lot of collective change. As I said, Neptune's going into Aries tomorrow. So we did all of that with Mars retrograde. It's now direct. You feel a strong sense of emotional connection towards a new direction that you want to embody and do. That's emotionally there. But now you need to be able to see the synthesis between this emotional charge that you're ready to take up and the values, Venus retrograde, that need to align with that emotional energy. And so there's going to be a friction between the patterns that still are being worked out and what type of frequency you need to come into that aligns with this new emotional energy of will that you want to express. So this transit, this aspect with Mars trining Neptune, Venus, Saturn, and Pisces is about slowing down and asking yourself, does this align with my authenticity? Does this align with my personal will? Am I connected to the truth? And am I ready to invest in that new reality? So, what I mean when I say spiritual strength flows freely, this is about this harmonic resonance between Mars saying, hey, let's move this forward, let's go into this direction, and the capacity to actually see your values becoming in succinct and aligned with it. And again, this is a solar eclipse, so it's going to continuously keep gestating and changing our consciousness over the next couple of months, because that's what eclipses do. They consistently keep deepening a pattern that eventually will become the norm for us. So another pattern that will be present with us, and again, I've touched on this, and we'll do a video on this, talking about the significance of Neptune entering Aries. But yeah, the next day, Neptune's entering Aries, and I bet you, for most of us, we're like searching, what does this mean for us? Well, firstly, just in astrological terms, it's a 160-year cycle that's beginning. So, there are no people on this planet that are alive that were alive when that previous cycle happened. We have history to tell us to a certain degree what types of events can we expect. But for the most part, even though we can look back, Neptune in Aries it's not the same. It's not going to be the same then. Some of the core principles will be there, but we are in a completely new territory. And that's what I meant earlier when I said that we are stepping into a new territory, a new landscape, a new environment. And we don't have the language, the psychological understanding, the perspective yet to fully understand what it is that we're stepping into. But one thing that I do know is that many of you resonate with the possibility and the potential and the recognition of what it means to step into that new space. And that's what the solar eclipse is about. It's igniting the possibility, or in fact, not even the possibility, it's actually igniting the need to realize that change is happening and we're either on board with it or not. So, for the most part, Neptune in Aries, Neptune in Pisces has been exactly that: dreams, illusions, manifestations of this dreamy world. But Neptune in Aries turns in and says, okay, do you remember that Chiron and Aries energy that I was telling you to embrace, the awakening of agency, the need to heal the collective wounds that we carry that stop us from stepping into a more sovereign way of being? Well, Neptune in Aries is pointing to that. It's saying, as a collective, we're going to need to address these things. And we're about to embark on that individual story that's for you. And I know you feel that on some level. So, clarity lags, stay mindful. For the most part, again, this is the first time Neptune's entering Aries. So this energy is about slowing down, even though there's an encouragement to step into this bold space and do that. I don't mean rush into it. I don't mean go and make commitments. I mean recognize that there is a new emerging energy that is present within our world at the moment. So what can we take away from the lessons of this eclipse? The first thing is lead with your sovereign truth. Okay? This is an important one. What I mean when I say lead with your sovereign truth, I mean recognize that Aries is about, as I said, taking up space in a truthful way of living. And we're about on the precipice of that. And it's going to feel uncomfortable, but it is an important one if you want to live in a way that feels resonant, meaningful, and authentic to you, as in honest with what it is that you're experiencing. The second part of this is to release what's outdated. As I said before, releasing maybe is not the right word. It is the recognition that you're stepping away from. You're just stepping away from. You're just moving out of that space and saying, no longer is this what I want to tolerate. No longer is this what I want to do. And then making the decision to see that a new change must occur in order for you to move away from that energy. So it's the recognition that change needs to happen if you're going to move out of the pattern of disempowerment. That solar eclipse wants to ignite that between it and say, what are you ready to do? What are you ready to step into? And when you do that, you release what's outdated. It's going to feel discomforting. It's going to feel chaotic. It's going to feel turbulent. And that is because most of the energy in the sky right now is probably like that. So don't rush into something without thinking through what it is that you're doing, thinking through about what excites you. Get in touch with what it is first. And for some of you that might not connect to that space, what I mean by don't rush is that this solar eclipse is still saying, hey, there's some things that we're still working out. This emerging energy is going to push you into a new direction, but you might feel like you can't do it, or that you're in fear of something, or it's uncertain. And then you need to address what those patterns are. Are they real fears? Are they irrational fears? Are they still patterns of thinking that are holding you back, Mercury retrograde? Or are they patterns that are there and you need to be paying attention to what you still need to grow within yourself to begin embracing this new energy that's present, that is becoming more present on this collective plane? So the lesson for this eclipse is be true to yourself. Recognize that there's an emergent energy of possibility and potential. See it as something that needs to happen and that it's pressing through you. But be mindful of the fact that just reacting to whatever that energy is could lead you off into a direction that will not become fruitful. We're still in the retrograde phase, and with both Mercury and Venus, and so there's still more clarity to come with this energy that's available. So, how to navigate this eclipse? Pause, reflect before moving, okay? Let the old fade away. And you do that by just simply recognizing that whatever it is that you want to take up new space with, you can't do it by bringing these old things with you, right? Whatever that is for you, whatever patterns, whatever you recognize or identify within your life that is a symbol of the old, just let that go, right? All that Pisces energy. And ask yourself the question, what is emerging for me right now? That's the powerful one. That's the one that's going to bring us into a deeper state of authenticity. What's emerging in my life right now? Sit with that, recognize that, get excited about it. Allow the solar eclipse to show you exactly what it is that you're ready to embody for this year. So let me know in the comment section, peeps, what are your experiences? What are the things that are emerging for you? And don't forget to learn your charts. The link is in the description. We are going to be closing it super soon. And we're going to be doing a video on Neptune in Aries. They're also coming out super soon. So until the next video, guys, have an amazing day, and I'll see you again. Bye.